Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Anna Kennedy, Executive Director here at LOHF, and we are elevating the mental well-being of youth and children here in Lancaster County. This is a blog post that we are putting together today on self-care for helping professionals. And it's a little bit of a recap from a 6-part series we did in spring of 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic was just getting started. And we thought it might be helpful to return to some of this content as it's been a year now. And we thought that you might find some helpful tips in this content. So let's get started. So to begin, I just want to invite you to turn off your video for a moment. Just turn off your video if you're comfortable and stand up if you are able to, or remain seated and sit slightly forward in your chair. Breathe. Breathe deeply. And imagine there is an invisible force pulling the top of your head up. Lift your chest. Drop your shoulders down and back. Lift your heart. I like to imagine this as a strong back, a strong spine, and a soft heart. Now release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Were you holding tension there? Relax your jaw muscles and smile. So this is the feelings wheel. It is a helpful tool. I have it printed and available to look at throughout the day at my desk. The feelings wheel helps us identify our feelings or our emotions, what we might be experiencing in that moment. So I want to invite you to do a one-word check-in. So just share with yourself, check in how you're feeling right now in this moment. Identify that emotion. What is it? Name it. Share it with yourself or someone else if you want to. Own it. And then let it go. Realize that our emotions are fluid, like our breath, like our breathing. It's not permanent, but it can be really helpful to just do that check-in with yourself, naming it and identifying it, breathing. So today, these are some of the topics that we'll cover. We'll practice some self-care. We'll talk a little bit about mental health, the impact of remote work on our lives. We'll discuss a little about grief and loss, and we'll share some mindfulness tips. I mentioned earlier that this is a bit of a recap of a 6-part series we did in last spring, in spring of 2020. And the link here will take you to that blog and those recordings. So grieving a loss, we'll start with some understanding of grief and loss. First, I want to invite you to acknowledge something that you're grieving, someone, something, a situation, a circumstance. We are all experiencing some level of grief or loss of our way of life before the pandemic began. And many of us are also grieving people. We may be feeling grief for situations happening in our communities. The murder of George Floyd might be an example of that. So it is helpful to identify our grief, welcome it, sit with it, feel it. That all helps us to process and identify what we are going through. And we're all missing friends, family, maybe travel, routines, meeting in person, regular school hours. These are all examples of grief and loss. And it can be challenging to adapt to major changes in our lives, especially children. The children, like many of us, thrive in routine. So a disruption in our regular routine can be very challenging. So it can be helpful just to identify that. And I want to acknowledge and thank Melanie Snyder from Penn Medicine Lancaster General, who spoke about this briefly with us last spring. And also a resource here is the Pathways Center for Grief and Loss, and the support groups and work that they do. Elaine Ostrom has taught me that grieving is like a meandering stream. It can flow back and forth between feeling okay and feeling not okay, and everything in between. It's a real process. So I remember telling my staff early on in the pandemic that we need to give ourselves grace. We hope that we can give each other grace and patience, and just understanding that this is challenging. So an analogy for this that I have appreciated is that we are in the same storm here, but we are in very different boats. Some people may have a giant yacht and lots of resources and lots of privilege, lots of support and connections with family and friends. Others are, in a little tiny dinghy or paddle boat, or maybe just, struggling to swim. And so it can be helpful. I find it very helpful to think about this in terms of compassion and then also empathy, and recognizing that even just acknowledging the gravity of the situation, or that everybody's carrying a different burden here. It can take a lot of courage to be vulnerable and share that struggle. And so on the receiving end, if someone is being vulnerable and brave and courageous and sharing that struggle with you or with someone, to remember empathy. And what is empathy? Empathy is really walking alongside someone, getting down next to them where they are in that moment, and appreciating their courage for sharing that. Takes a lot of strength to share that challenge, and just being there for them, not trying to solve the problem or the situation for them, but really just listening and being supportive, giving lots of compassion and grace to that individual. And so there's a link here to a video by Brene Brown that I love, that does a really great job with some wonderful humor on the difference between empathy and sympathy. So I want to invite you to just take a moment and look away from your screen, shift your gaze, give yourself a moment to avert your eyes from the computer screen in particular, and just breathe. Take a deep breath in and exhale. So we're going to practice a mindfulness technique that we often teach children in schools. It's a really great, simple, quick, and effective tool for reminding ourselves to be present in this moment. So this is called the 5 senses grounding technique, if you're already familiar with it. It's very simple and quick, and you can practice this throughout the day to just give yourself a little 1-minute or 2-minute break. So first, I want you to just identify around you 5 things that you can see right now. Just take a moment, 5 things you can see, and name them in your mind quietly to yourself. And then maybe close your eyes if you want to, and identify 4 things that you can hear right now. And if it's very quiet, just listen. Maybe you hear yourself breathing. And then identify to yourself 3 things that you can feel right now. Maybe your hands are resting at your desk or in your lap. Do you feel your feet in the bottom of your shoes? Whatever it is, 3 things you can feel right now. And then 2 things you can smell, or favorite smell, your coffee, some chocolate, whatever it is. And 1 thing you can taste, or a favorite taste, or the last thing you remember eating. So that's a simple mindfulness grounding technique called the five senses grounding technique. And it doesn't take long, but it helps us remember to be present in our place, in our bodies, in our situation where we are. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about mental health, just some general guidelines and suggestions here. A healthy mind and a healthy body are interrelated, connected. We often joke that we forget that we have a neck that connects our minds to the rest of our bodies. And in our healthcare system, these systems are unfortunately very disconnected. So we need to remember to connect the mind to the body, remembering the neck, and also recognizing that physical activity, sleep, nutrition, all of these healthy habits also reinforce and support good mental health. And vice versa, good mental health can help us maintain those routines and healthy habits, and develop them and really keep them strong. So some warning signs, some things that you can look for in yourself, in your own healthy habits. Have you struggled to maintain them, or find different ways to replace the old with something new? And just remembering that running on empty or experiencing burnout is challenging in our own bodies, and it's also challenging for those around us, our families and our friends. It's very challenging to try to pour from an empty cup. So we have to kind of keep ourselves strong, fueling ourselves, and some helpful things are just about finding your passions, things that are rejuvenating for you, focusing on values, prioritizing, recognizing when and how powerful it is to say no, to open up time for things that are really important. I know that's something I've worked on a lot in the last few years. So these are some maybe helpful tips and strategies to maintaining good mental health, in addition to all of the nutrition, sleep, healthy habits, exercise. Compassion fatigue is a great indicator of burnout. So when it's hard for someone to support someone else, or when you're just feeling very tired in your work, it's hard to find meaning anymore sometimes in the work that you once found meaningful and rejuvenating, can be a warning sign. So looking at ways that we can make meaning, finding those joys and passions again is really powerful. And some helpful tips and strategies. We're going to practice a guided meditation, and I'll also invite you to do what's called a body scan, to just again center yourself in how you're feeling and how you're doing in your body. But we also want to think about new routines and new ways of being, new habits that we've created, as we're also maybe grieving what we're letting go of, also welcoming in some of those new things that we may have experienced that we want to hold on to, that are worth keeping. So yes, it's been hard. We've had to let go of a lot, and that is grief and loss. And we also, it can be helpful to reflect and think about what new healthy routines have you created that can help carry you through the pandemic and beyond. So these could be things like, replacing a regular gym routine with something that you're able to do at home or in your neighborhood. I know I've enjoyed listening to audiobooks and walking in my neighborhood, whereas I would have, gone to a class at the gym previously. Maybe you've taken up cooking or gardening or any of these healthy routines that can be beneficial to our mental health as well. So just take a moment and reflect and sit with it and think about it, and Give yourself, some gratitude and some appreciation for maybe some new things that you've done in the past year that you may carry forward, and that's good. So all the feels, all the emotions, the grief, the loss, the change, that there can, be anger and sadness with some of that. And yet we know that good mental health, good mental hygiene is also about practicing gratitude and appreciation and, reflection for maybe some new things that have come out of this that are positive. Maybe your pets are very, very important people in your lives these days. So, it's healthy to practice that gratitude as well. As I said before, the meaning making is powerful and, can be a way of appreciating and practicing gratitude. It's also, an opportunity sometimes to advocate for yourself and leaning into your own, personal values, professional values, so that you can advocate for your own needs at home, at work, and then, being able to advocate for not only yourself but others around you. I think as parents, as a mom, I know I do this, often with my child. And also the power of connecting. It opens up that opportunity for us to connect with not only ourselves but others, and building that muscle of empathy, practicing that empathy. So, being vulnerable, but also, being there for the people in our lives. So I want to share a poem that one of our guests last spring had shared that has really stuck with me and been a helpful visual reminder of some of what this practice of mindfulness might be like for you. So this is called The Guest House by Rumi, a 13th century mystic and poet. And it goes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." And now maybe just think of returning to that feelings wheel that we talked about earlier, and check in with, how you're feeling in this moment right now. Maybe it's a little different than when we started. And next we're going to move into a body scan and first a guided meditation. So I want to invite you to stand. Again, maybe, your video's off and you can just move around a little bit. If you're able to stand up tall or sit up tall in your chair with your lower back away from the back of your chair so that you're really sitting up nice and tall. Plant your feet about hip width apart and make sure your knees are slightly bent. Now, again, imagine an invisible force pulling you up from the top of your head, and just breathe deeply and slowly. Lower your shoulders, lift up your heart. Now try tensing your belly a little bit and feel what that feels like, and then release those muscles. Maybe you find a happy medium where your abs are just slightly engaged. Check your spine alignment, maybe tuck in your pelvis. Relax your kneecaps if they're engaged, just relax them a little bit. And then lift the arches of your feet and gently spread your toes. Breathe in strength. Breathe out whatever you might be holding in. Breathe in maybe courage, and exhale your fears. Choose your mantra, whatever is helpful to you in this moment. Just imagine that with each breath, your inhale and your exhale. So here we just want to return to the feelings wheel and identify, what is it that you're feeling now? Share that feeling with yourself, name it, identify it, own it. Remember that it's fluid, it's going to move, it's not permanent. Now, I mentioned a body scan earlier, and a body scan is very similar to a guided meditation, except rather than a guide or a prompt about what to do, a body scan simply invites you to check in with yourself and maybe scan, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and just gradually sort of check in with various muscles and feelings and where you might be holding some tension. It can be helpful to do something like this when you just want to check your posture. And, if you're thinking a lot about spine alignment and posture, if you have pain anywhere, a body scan can be really helpful to just, again, it only takes about a minute or so to do something like this, to practice it. And it's pretty easy to find those minutes throughout the day, 1 minute here and there, or a gift of a bit of a transition between one Zoom meeting to another, or however you're transitioning in your day. I wanted to just share a little bit some local resources that you might find helpful if you are looking to learn more, looking for support, looking for help in our community here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So our website is LOHF.org. Some other local resources are the Let's Talk Lancaster Collaborative, Let's Talk Lancaster. There is a trauma and resilience training at Penn Medicine Lancaster General Health, which is now online and self-guided, and you can find that at Let's Talk Lancaster as well. We have an adverse childhood experiences group and a page on the ACES connection, ACES connection. We have a group for Lancaster County. There's a statewide Pennsylvania group called HEAL, PA, HEAL, that's doing a lot of the trauma-informed care work across Pennsylvania. You could contact Mental Health America of Lancaster County, mhalancaster.org, for all kinds of resources, advocacy, and support for mental health of all ages here in Lancaster County. Also Compass Mark, if you're looking for addiction prevention resources, Compass Mark is great. You can text HELP to 741-741. Again, that's the crisis text line, 741-741. It's free. It's staffed by trained professionals all across the United States. You can dial 211, just 211 on your phone. It's free 24/7. Information referral to all kinds of resources and social services that are available in our community, and that's also all across Pennsylvania. Or you can visit their website at pa211east.org. You can contact the Central Penn Business Group on Health if you're interested. They're also doing a mindfulness series this spring. It's been great. Highly recommend some of those. And if you're looking for healthcare resources, mental health resources, definitely talk with your doctor. Or if you're looking for support for yourself or a family member, talk with your doctor, call your insurance company, find out if there are folks that are approved in your insurance. You can visit psychologytoday.com to find a therapist or counselor. It's a helpful resource, and just search by zip code. And then here at LOHF, we do have mental health copay assistance available, so we can help to cover the costs of your copays. And Mental Health America has a similar program for adults as well, similar to an employee assistance program. So those are some great local resources that you can use and utilize, and refer friends and family to, coworkers, anyone who might be looking for some support. So thank you. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions or want to learn more, this is my email address, website, and I want to thank you so much for taking care of your own mental health. I hope that you learned some tips and resources here, and stay healthy. Thank you.